What's happening, everybody? All right, I'm back and we're still talking UDFAs. I got four undrafted free agents that I think have a really good shot at making this 53-man roster. On my previous video, I highlighted one player that I think has a really good chance. I basically gave an entire breakdown as to why I think he can make this 53-man roster and why I think he really has that chance. And so on this video, I'm going to break down another undrafted free agent that I think that has a really good chance at making this roster. And so before I get to it, if you can, please like this video, subscribe, turn on those notifications. You guys are killing it for me. I can't thank you enough. I'm doing my next giveaway at 4,000 subscribers. So if you want to be included in that, hit that subscribe button. I definitely appreciate it. But at the very least, if you hit that like button, it definitely helps me out. So let's kind of get into this, right? I said this in my previous video, but I want to kind of say it again for you guys that didn't see that video. But after this one, go check it out if you want to know one of the UDFAs I think can make this roster. But when I look at undrafted free agents, a lot of times undrafted free agents, they don't make rosters, right? Most of the time they find themselves on practice squads. They may go to another squad, maybe a team that needs more help at a certain position, and they can find a spot there. And so when I review undrafted free agents, there's a couple things that I take into consideration. One is, what does the position look like that they're trying to fight for? Is there a solidified starter in that position? What does the depth look like? Do they have a chance at really sticking out, doing something on that practice field or during preseason that's going to catch the eye of the coaches and fight their way into a spot, right? Again, you don't need to be a starter. You just need to find your spot on the 53-man roster. You could be a backup, second, third string, whatever it may be. But if you don't have a solidified starter and you don't have decent depth, you might find yourself an opportunity. In addition to that, you got to be able to play special teams. You got to be able to show that you can play special teams. And so in this video, the person that I'm kind of detailing, we need depth. And I think that they can find themselves in a position if they perform correctly, right? If they perform and if they really bust themselves to make a name and catch the eye of the coaches, I think they can find themselves sitting on this depth chart, somber when that 53-man roster is finally announced. And so let's kind of go get into it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna look at Andrew Coker, right? He's a fifth-year senior at a TCU. He's 6'7", 315 pounds. This is a guy that is very versatile when it comes to the offensive line. And that's one thing that's another thing. When you talk specifically about the offensive line and he played offensive tackle, you got to be versatile. You got to be able to play both left and right tackle. You got to be a swing tackle when we talk about depth. And when it comes to Andrew Coker, he's not going to come in and start. I don't think he's going to take over. Obviously he's not going to take over Colton Miller's position, but I also don't think he's going to take over the right tackle starting position. I think Theron Mumford is going to take that. But we got some depth and we got some competition when it comes to who's going to back these positions up. And so what I want to do is I want to kind of go into who he is real quick. Obviously, his hometown is Katy, Texas. But let's take a look at his draft profile a little bit. Andrew Coker from Taylor High School was rated a 3-star recruit by ESPN and handed a 3-star grade by 247 Sports. Following high school, Coker opted to join TCU, so he stayed in Texas. Obviously, hometown Katy, Texas. TCU is in there in Texas as well. In 2019, as a freshman, Coker saw action in 3 games and played a total of 57 snaps. Obviously, that's not a lot of snaps, but good experience for a freshman. And then as a sophomore in 2020, he played 8 games and a total of 456 snaps. He conceded 11 quarterback hurries, 1 quarterback hit, and 4 sacks while playing at right tackle. So he played right tackle all of 2020 season. In 2021, as a junior, Coker saw action in 12 games, a total of 768 snaps. He gave up 13 quarterback hurries, 2 quarterback hits, and 3 sacks while playing most of his snaps at right tackle. So in 2021, he had experience mostly at right, but then he played left in 2022. As a senior, Coker saw action in 13 games, played a total of 861 snaps for the Horned Frogs. He allowed 12 quarterback hurries, 5 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks while playing most of his snaps at right tackle. Again, most at right, could play left. In 2023, as a fifth-year senior, Coker saw action in 10 games and played in a total of 711 snaps for the Horned Frogs. He allowed 13 quarterback hurries, 5 quarterback hits, and 1 sack while playing the majority of his snaps at left tackle and the rest at right tackle. Now, one of the things that I do want to say about Coker, and when I was reviewing a lot of his film, he played a lot of left tackle and right tackle. The 2 out of the 4 games that I watched, again, I don't just look at highlights. It's really hard to just look at highlights when it comes to offensive linemen. I go in and I watch full games. I watch all their snaps. And one of the things that I saw, especially when he played against Colorado, played half. He played the entire game at left tackle. And so when I did more research, I saw that in the 2023 season, he actually played, out of his 10 games, he played 5 at left tackle, 5 at right tackle. So he has a ton of experience at both positions, which is which is a huge asset when it comes to the depth piece at the at the tackle, offensive tackle position. And so one of the things that I like about him, I'm going to go through the pros and cons really quick, is while I watch the game, he plays with a mean streak. When he run blocks, he wants to crush you. He wants to get after you. He wants to put you in the ground, and which I love watching. He loves to finish blocks. He doesn't stop at the whistle. He plays through the whistle. It's one of the terms as a football player and as a football coach for a lot of years. You love that term. And when you hear that a player plays through the whistle, or to the echo of the whistle, that just means that they want to finish that play. And one of the things, not only in the run blocking, but he also excels a lot in the pass blocking. And one of the things that I really liked when I was reviewing the film is that he handles twists and stunts very well. Not only in college, but in the NFL, you're going to see a lot of D linemen, right? The defensive tackle will come first. The D end will loop underneath or over the top. You got D ends that will come inside, and then a linebacker will stem outside of them. You're going to see a lot of twists, a lot of stunts when you're on the offensive line as in the NFL. And what he does is he has very disciplined eyes, which I really like seeing. One of the struggles that I think Dylan Parham had was he didn't have good eye discipline. All right, what happened is when a D lineman crosses your face and you completely turn your shoulders, you completely turn your head with that D lineman or even that linebacker blitzing, there's another guy coming. There's another guy coming. It's like when I coach football, and I mainly coach the defensive side of the ball, when one of the things that I would always coach the linebackers and defensive backs, when you're playing zone coverage, right, you need to stay in your zone. And one of the keys to it is when one guy leaves, when a receiver leaves your zone, another guy's coming. So just because another guy leaves, it doesn't mean you have nobody to guard. Someone else is going to come into your zone. And that rule applies to the offensive line as well. That offensive line, when a D lineman crosses your face and tries to reach over, let's say you're the guard, and he crosses your face and tries to reach over to the center, even though he's going to the center, another guy's going to loop your way. And so you got to have good eye discipline. You got to make sure that you sustain your area. And one of the things that I saw out of Coker is he did that extremely well. He kept his shoulders square. He kept his feet right. His head always stayed upfield, even though a lineman or a DN would cross his face. He made sure to see if someone was coming back. And he did it extremely well. So I was definitely impressed on that. Now, one of the things is he is 6'7". He's a tall tackle, which is extremely good, but he is only 315 pounds. It's a little bit lighter, but that did allow him to get to the second level very well. And so when he had to get to the second level, somewhat in the zone blocking schemes where he would basically, block down onto a D lineman, and then he's got to reach to the linebacker. When he gets that second level, he did it quickly, he did it efficiently, and he got to his block. So he can get to the second level very well, which is what you want to see out of a tackle. And then one of the things is he gets off the ball because he wants to put you in the dirt. He gets off the ball extremely well. So I like that about him. One of the things that, especially in the run blocking, and one of the things that I watch for when I look at linemen, when I look at offensive linemen, I look at how do they use their hips, right? You want to be able to get your body between the defender and the ball carrier. That's the biggest thing. I've always, whenever I have either taught offensive line, even though I mainly coach defense, I did take a couple years. I would teach the offensive line. I always told them to basically point your butt to the ball carrier. That was one of the things that I always tell them, because if you got your body, if you're pointing your butt to the ball carrier, that means your body is between the defender and the ball carrier. That means now that defender has to go through you to get to that ball carrier. So you're doing your job. You're basically shielding that defender from the ball carrier. And so he uses his hips extremely well. He gets his first couple his steps in very quickly to get himself positioned, but then he moves his hips in the right position to really get the advantage on that down lineman or linebacker. So he uses his hips extremely well. And then his again, one thing I'll end with when I watch his film is just his ability to dissect the defense. And a lot of times defenses will move on you, right? You'll have D linemen that will stem at right before the snap. And when I say stem, that means that they're going to basically shift right before the snap. And you see linebackers move around all the time. And what I really noticed about him is he could identify when the D linemen, the linebackers were moving, and he still understood where his block was. So just his intelligence on the offensive line is extremely good based on what I could see on the film. Now, some of the cons, right? There are definite cons because he wasn't drafted. He was an undrafted free agent, so there definitely are cons. And some of them that I saw was, as much as he's aggressive, as much as he's got a great punch and he definitely tries to finish you, he doesn't use his the only way I can really describe it is his hands are kind of soft in pass coverage. And what I mean by that is a lot of times D linemen are, once you kind of get that D lineman within arm's length, you want to have a good punch. You want to be able to have a good punch, and those D linemen are going to want to slap your hands and slap your arms away. That's one of the biggest moves that D linemen have, is they wait for an arm to reach and they slap it down. And one of the things that I saw is his arms and his hands tend to be kind of soft at that. The D lineman can slap his hands away and his arms away pretty quickly. So that's definitely a con. But again, that's more, in my opinion, that's more technique. He needs to work on his hand placement, so that can be coached up. Now, he did struggle against speedy edge rushers, guys coming off the edge quickly, guys that are fast, athletic off the edge. He did struggle at times. And so as much as he's a little bit lighter and he has quick feet, he can get into position. I just don't think his technique was there to really handle some of the quicker, faster edge rushers. Again, it's something that can be coached up. So, and because I think that he knew he struggled against quick edge rushers, he found himself playing upright a lot. All right. I think, and that's what I see out of sometimes with offensive linemen. When you question whether or not you can guard somebody, your technique starts to fall off because you panic a little bit. And I think that's mainly why he found himself upright at times. And when you find yourself upright, that means you can't move laterally very quickly. And that means those fast, quick edge rushers can really take advantage of you. And so that's definitely something that I saw. Now, another thing is, even though he's a little bit on the lighter side, 315 pounds, and he can get to the second level fast and quickly and efficiently, one thing that I did see is that when he had to pull in run situations, right, where a lot of times guards or tackles have to pull to get in front of the lead blocker, he had the athleticism to get to that point of attack. He was able to get to the other side line of scrimmage and get there quickly. But what I saw is that he failed to sometimes identify and track his defender. And a lot of times guys would run right past him. He just didn't, his eyes weren't good when he got to the point of attack. When he got to where he needed to be, he just could not locate the defender that he needed to block. And I saw it enough to where it is a concern. And so those are definitely my cons when it comes to Andrew Coker. And so, but why do he went as an undrafted free agent. Why do I think he went undrafted? I think one, it's because obviously the cons that I just stated. But at the same time, this was a very deep offensive tackle class. There was a lot of offensive tackles. There were still some solid offensive tackles that even went almost as deep as the fourth and fifth round. And so I think that definitely hurt him. Again, he is a little undersized. As an offensive tackle, his height is good. He's 6'7". That's good. But as an offensive tackle, I'd like to see him at least at 330. 330, I think, is the lightest I'd like to see an offensive tackle. Anything lighter than that, I think that is you might be slotted in as a guard. But I think that if he can use his athleticism. I think that if he can show that he can be a vital piece to the run game, and then take this off season and maybe next year, if he does make the 53-man roster, gain some weight, get into the 330s, and I think he has a chance at really putting a statement, putting some tape and some film out there and some plays that can catch the coach's eyes. And so as I kind of end this, I also want to take a look at the depth chart. So let's take a look at the depth chart and just see kind of where could he play when it comes to the on this team and when it comes to the offensive line. And so, like I said before, look, we got Colton Miller at the left tackle, and we have Thayer Mumford at the right tackle. I think Thayer Mumford is going to win the right tackle position. But then let's look at the depth, right? At the depth, we have Andres Pete. Now, we brought him in. He's a solid veteran, a former Pro Bowler. I don't think he's the same player or the same Pro Bowl status, and so I think he's a good veteran to have there. Now, I think this is where the competition is going to come into play, right? During the OTAs and during preseason, you're always looking for the positions where people are competing, where the players are competing, and where I think the competition is really going to come into play is Jalen McKenzie. He's another undrafted free agent. Dalton Wagner was an undrafted free agent from last year. A lot of people are high on Dalton Wagner, but then you got Andrew Coker. So we got the battle of the undrafted free agents. That's what we got. And so I definitely want to see this battle go on. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I think there's a really good chance that if, and I like Dalton Wagner too. So don't think that I think Dalton Wagner is not a good player. I think that there's going to be a really good competition with Andrew Coker and Dalton Wagner. I think Andrew Coker, based on what I've seen on the film and what I know of Dalton Wagner, I think Andrew Coker has a really good chance at beating Dalton Wagner. But I do like Wagner as well. But I'm going to throw this out there. I think that there's a good chance that Delmar Glaze, even though we drafted him, even though he played a lot of tackle, the more and more research that I did on him, a lot of people actually had him slotted in as a potential guard in the NFL. And so this is what I think could possibly happen. Delmar Glaze might find himself slotting down at the guard position. One guy that I don't know why we signed him on is Cody Whitehair. I understand Cody Whitehair played with Luke Getsy last year with Chicago. I understand that he understands the system, but I think Cody Whitehair is not a good offensive guard at all. He was benched last year with the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Bears had a really bad offensive line. So I don't know why we brought him in. Again, maybe it was just because he had a veteran presence and he understood Luke Getsy's system, but he's a veteran. He's probably only has 1, maybe 2 years left of playing years for him. And so I can see Cody Whitehair, honestly, possibly getting cut. He could get cut. Delmar Glaze moves down to guard with Jordan Meredith. And then we have Andres Pete as a swing tackle, possibly to back up Colton Miller. And then we got the battle of the undrafted free agents between Jalen McKenzie, Andrew Coker, and Dalton Wagner. I think that's where Andrew Coker might have a chance at making this squad. Again, I'm not high on Delmar Glaze. I think there is a chance he moves down to guard, and that could open up another depth piece at the offensive tackle position. So that kind of sums it up for me, guys. I appreciate you sticking with me on this video. I got two more undrafted free agents that I think have a really good shot at making this squad, and I'm going to detail those out in the next couple of videos. But let me know in the comments down below, guys. What do you think? Do you think Andrew Coker has a shot? What are your thoughts on Dalton Wagner? I know a lot of people are high on him. Again, I think he's a good offensive tackle. I think it's going to be a battle, and I'm excited. I'm excited to watch just how these battles play out in practice and preseason. And again, as reports come out, I'm going to see if any of these names, if Andrew Coker's name is tied to a report, whether good or bad, I'm going to be paying attention to it because I think Andrew Coker has a good chance at making the 53-man roster. So again, guys, I appreciate it. Do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, turn those notifications. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next video. I'm out.